everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Michael in the Backyard. Today we're going to be in the shop. Who we got out here? We got Lucy. Yeah, she's my good girl. And we got Faye. She's the other good girl. She's due to have puppies in about 3 more weeks. Yep, aren't you, girl? She's a good girl. Such a sweetheart. Both of you are. There's your bed over there. You can go lay down and relax. I usually won't have them out here when I start welding, but while I'm drilling and doing other stuff, I'll have them hanging out here with me. They like it, I think. They pretend if they don't. All right, what have I got left to do out here at this moment in time? Well, remember we started this cabinet a while back, and I built one like it already, and it's been delivered, and I'm building another one. So what's left here is I got a drill and tap, some half 13 holes in 4 of these. Then I got a plate that mounts on top here. And you got some other stuff in the way. And these isolation mounts I've got here in the bag. Big old heavy duty isolation mounts will go between that and the plate to absorb vibration. But yeah, we've got a lot done here that I didn't do on camera because I've already built one of these before and you guys have seen it. Only difference is I put 50-pound struts on here instead of 40 pounds. Helps hold it up a little bit better. The other one wasn't bad. It's almost to the point where you can mix a 50 and a 40 and get somewhere good in between. But anyway, it's all welded up. There again, base plate in the bottom, and we're going to do all that and time lapse it so we don't spend a lot of time on that because this video is going to be about making my weld table better. Now back here in the corner, you can't even hardly see it, but there is my welding table. And guess what it can't do right now? I can't weld on it because it is covered in stuff. Like cylinder heads for the Harley is sitting there. A couple of grinders. The head for this 6-cylinder for the 55 Dodge is sitting here, sitting on it. I got my F-150 timing set back over here and some miscellaneous stuff. So what we're planning on doing in this particular video is finishing up this cabinet, get that drug out in the middle of the floor. The only reason I don't use my weld table like I should be using it is for the simple fact it's curved. I had a big piece of steel I bought. I put it on there, had a little curve to it like this, and I'm like, we'll just use it for what it is because I was just going to build some things. Well, turns out some other projects I've got, I'm going to need flat. And so what I'm going to do with that weld table is some really cool stuff. My goal is to try to get it so it's flat. That'd be my number one goal. And then once it's flat, I'm going to make some other modifications to it. I've got another tool coming that I'm going to use to make some modifications to this and make it more useful and more jig friendly, as it were. And I'll bring you guys along for the ride. So let's finish this up, and then we'll get back to the weld table, and hopefully you guys will enjoy that video. There again, I think you guys seem to enjoy a lot of the fabrication stuff or the creating of stuff. The one previous video to this one, no, it'd be 2 videos ago from when you'll see this, or maybe 3 videos ago. It depends on what I'm going to release next. Always got some things cooking in the 3D printing world. I got some stuff cooking over there. But some people were confused or didn't really understand maybe completely how that $14,000 could save $14,000, that thumbnail. Well, those little pieces of material, just to clarify, those little pieces of material I was building the jig for to be able to spin them and straighten them, the material itself was getting ready to be scrapped. And by being able to cut it up into the user lengths, the lengths that are going to be used in, and then making sure they're straight before they go through the rest of the manufacturing process, by not scrapping out that material is worth $14,000. By not scrapping it out, we save that. A little bit more investment in my fixture, and then a little time in straightening. Honestly, it takes less than 30 seconds a piece. There's a lot of them that you put in there and they're straight, but you don't know that until you put them on that fixture and go, oh yeah, they're straight, go, straight, go. Oh, this one's got a 15 thousandths bend in it. Do that, straighten it, it's ready to go. So anyway, that's what that's all about. Without further ado, let's jump in. Let's finish doing what I got to do to this thing, because I am definitely excited about getting after that table, because the next fixture, there's a next project that's over here. I'll show you a little bit about it. I've got stacks of steel here that have already been sheared and broke for this. And we're welding together some things that look like this. And then those will become a cabinet. I'm building like, golly, what is it? 3, 4, 3, 6, 4, 12, 18, carry the 12. How many am I building? Think more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12. I'm building 12 of these things that holds these containers, so they can just slide them in. Like each one's going to be their own individual little shelf, little pocket. Right now, these containers are currently being used in a situation where they're stacked like 6 high. In order to pull one off the bottom, you got to pull the whole thing out, set it down, pull the one out. By creating a minimalistic type of shelf, these things here will be able to slide in and out individually. You won't have to handle multiple things, risk of dropping it and damage the product that's inside. So that's where this video is heading, is toward that, getting that table done and possibly getting that fixture down the road a little faster, because currently I was taking some pieces of metal, laying them across the workbench here, currently the project, the workbench here, and clamping it down and welding it. It's going to be so much nicer if it is actually on a bench. So that's what we're going to do with that. All right, let's get some drilling and tapping done. Alrighty, folks. My voice is starting to come back. There's been a lot of garbage going around work, just around in general, that's impacting people's nasals and chest congestion and all that stuff. Saturday, I couldn't even talk. Sunday, I did a video for you guys on the puppies and what happened to my little pup, Riley. And, you know, it was a sad turn of events. But, and that's just the way life goes sometimes. Some things get cut off a little short. But I'm out here tonight. This is like midweek, and it's late already. It's 8:24. I got a late start this evening. We're not going to be out here very long, but I need to get something going here. I want to show you what I got going on. Now, I've got a project that I need a large flat surface for, and what I was trying to do on top of my solvent tank with a little crisscrossy thing wasn't going to cut it. And this is something I've been putting off for a while. And even after I got started here, I still had to think and think and think about it. So I want to show you what we've got going on. I'm going to get you in close. Got me some new clamps too, because I was running short on clamps. And you know, a fella just can't have too many clamps. And I'll get my drink out of the way here. Yeah, that's just water. Don't get too worried. So I wanted to modify and build my weld bench up to, bring it up to, let's call it what my personal weld bench standards. Now, ideally a weld bench is built out of, you know, it'd be really cool if it was a cast iron top, because weld splatter and stuff doesn't stick to cast iron. You can just brush it off by hand practically. Whereas when you've got a steel top, weld splatter likes to stick to it. What I will try when it's all said and done, I've got this, I haven't tried this before, but we'll give it a whirl, nozzle dip. And this is what you dip your welding nozzle in. It helps keep the weld splatter from sticking. Well, what if a guy had the brilliant idea to clean this off and just get all the oils out of it with some acetone or some brake cleaner, and then rub it down with that. Still going to be conductive, which is what you want to have, you know, when you set metal things in, you want to conduct and conduct well, not have a painted surface, unless you're grounding right on the part, obviously. Will that keep the weld splatter from sticking as much? Time will tell. We're going to get there. So what you're looking at here is a 3 foot by 5 foot weld bench top. This is 3/8 plate steel. And when I put this together a long time ago, well, a couple years ago now, it's been not a great weld bench because it had a bow to it. This thing's a sway back. And I'll show you that up close here in a minute. And I've been pondering in my head, how can I get this straight? How can I get it not just perfectly flat, but straight enough to do all the types of things I like to do? I used this bench a couple years ago when I put my loader bucket off my 550 backhoe on here. It hold that loader bucket, and it's got heavy duty enough casters that I could roll the loader bucket around here in the shop and do some work on it when I was adding forks to it. But it was satisfactory for that. But for welding and jigging, it is not. So what am I going to do? Here's the game plan. We're going to make this table flat. That's one of the first goals, one of the goals along with what I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. And then I 3D printed, this is going to look kind of funky, and there's a method to the madness, and we'll get to that. This is going to be my drill jig fixture for my table. So I've got a pattern on here that's going to be every 4 inches. I'm going to cover this entire table in 1/2-13 drilled and tapped holes. I've had one of these in the past, and I loved it. And most you guys are thinking, you don't put tapped holes in a drill or a welding table. I do, because I know how I'm going to use it, and I know how I can hook fixtures onto it differently than maybe other people like to do. So this is nothing new. Other people have done this, I'm sure. This is just, I had a weld table, a 3-foot by 3-foot weld table years ago. I let go years ago, and I've been regretting it ever since, but that table wasn't big enough for some of the projects I do now. So what I've got here, if you look at this, it's got a lip. I 3D printed this block, and I 3D printed these guide pins. They're all just, that's all they are, just guide pins. What this is going to do is I'll be able to lock this in on the side of the table like this. I know this is wide enough vision you can see this. And then I've got a transfer punch that fits in here. So I've got a 4-hole pattern. Now the other cool part is I can bring this edge up flush to here, and it'll be 4 inches back, 4 inches over, and I'll start my whole pattern 4 inches away from the edge. That's where I want everything, because I want to be able to hold things down to the corner by doing by those means. So what I can do here then is once I clamp this down, I can bang, 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 4 holes, and then the cool part starts. Then I can slide down a set of holes. For instance, if I'm doing a pattern here, I can drill 2 holes, drop these that'll fit in my tap drill size holes, and I can pop these 2, and I can work my way down this side and this side. This is my front working edge. Reason I say that, if you look at this table from the side, and I'll show you that right here. If you look at it from this angle, I've got only about 4 inches overhanging here, and I have about 10 inches overhanging here. Why did I do that? Well, that's a simple explanation. I did not have a tape measure that I wore on my belt at all times when I built this. No, I'm just kidding. I did it so when I can sit at a stool, for instance, I'm welding, TIG welding and stuff, I can get my legs underneath the bench where I can't so much on the backside is easy. So there's a method to that madness why I did that. So the cool part is I can do this 4x4 pattern down this side and down this side. This is I'm calling this my 0 corner. If I'm building things that are 90 degrees, now this whole surface is going to be, the whole sides are all going to be 90 degrees to one another, so I can jig square and rectangular things up off any corner of this table. That's the ultimate plan. Being flat, that's the other big thing, right? You can't put together cooking nice straight miters if the thing's not flat. But once I get my 4x4 pattern here, I also have this drilled in a 9 by 9 or 9-inch pattern that is 4-inch square. So once I get to this set of holes out here, I can just put these locators in, flip this thing upside down, for instance, put this thing into my 4 holes I already have. This is going to square me up really nice, and I can transfer punch 6 more holes, drill those, transfer punch 6 more holes, drill those. So anyway, that's the plan to get my 4x4 pattern have 13 drilled and tapped holes on this table. Now I got a special tool to do all my drilling with, and it's not that. Stay tuned, because I got me a brand new tool that I'm excited to try out on here, and it should work just fine. And then the other pattern, the other thing is I'm going to do, I'm just kind of explaining it all to you, and then we're going to get busy, get after it, all right? So what I've got here, since this thing was not flat, I have heavy duty 3" by 3" by 5/16 thick angle iron. And you might, Michael, why do you have that? Well, as you can see here, let me lower you down so you can get a visual on what's going on. So I've got this angle iron clamped up here. And I'll show you on the other side what it looks like. This thing has a sway back to it, the way this metal was when I got it. And I was trying to debate whether I wanted it this way or this way. When I did this, I chose this way. And when I clamp it at the ends, it sucks things down pretty flat. Almost flat enough. Now I'm going to try to get in here and close and show you how flat it is. And I'll go to the other side and show you how flat it wasn't. So then I went out and bought this Johnson 4-foot straight edge scale, ruler, whatever you want to call it. So you can see, I think you can see a gap here. Can you see my fingers? The light? Let me go get a flashlight. So now you can see how much light is coming underneath that. That's how much light is coming through. That's probably a solid 1/16 of an inch. Now, if you look at it just in a short area like this, there's a lot less. Let me get this light pulled down. There's a lot less. It's about a 32nd. So it's sort of an even bow right now. Now, sorry about the bright light in the face there. Let's go to the other side, and I'll show you what it looks like without the angle iron on it. It's a lot more severe. The light's a lot more severe. It's probably closer to an 1/8 inch or more. So this actually pulls. Now by clamping this on here, now I'm clamping it underneath. By doing that, what it's allowing me to do is pull that bow out. Now there's still a little bit there, and I think I'm going to be okay with that, and I'm going to tell you why. I've got 2 more of the pieces of angle iron here that I'm going to put down the middle of here and here. So I'm going to have 4 pieces of this angle iron pulling that stress and holding it. Now, you're saying, Michael, well, what if it still has a bow? It might have some. What I have there is still what I'm considering a little bit unacceptable. Now, here's the method behind the madness. And when I train people at work and just tell them to do something isn't good enough. You got to tell people the why. Why do you do it? Because if they don't understand the why they're doing it, then they're just, I drink the Kool-Aid, I follow the robot. They don't learn. So I usually describe the why and the method to why you're doing it. So, heat, welding. When you have a flat piece, and most welders will know this, people that already know, I'm boring the crap out of you. But when you weld on something flat, that weld that's on top, that bead, if I do a long bead on a piece of rod like this or a piece of flat stock, it's going to curl up like that. I can't bend this part of my arm, but you'll get a curve like that. It'll shrink and pull. Now, if you take a ball peen hammer and beat on that weld, you can relieve the stress, and sometimes it'll go back to flat. Well, I'm counting on the pull here. So when I I'm going to drill a hole, I got to get this whole hole pattern laid out. And once I get it laid out, and that's what's going to be the time-consuming part. Once I get it all laid out and all the holes put in it, I can actually put that piece of angle iron that I'm going to put in the middle, and I can use my drilled and tapped holes with hold-down clamps from the bottom side to pull that angle iron, pull this top down flat to that angle. This angle is fairly flat, very flat. If I lay this on here, it's flat. It's not only flat, but it's flat enough. And so when I pull that down, I'm going to have a lot of this pulled down, a lot of tension there. Now that tension is going to never go away, right? Now when I start welding, I'm going to put some skip welds across there. And I'm going to keep the skip welds enough to hold the bar on. I'm not going to get carried away. I want it to be able to hold it where it'll hold its shape forever and ever, amen. But I also have that, and that's why I'm going to keep the pull. Excuse me, still battling. Because even going across it this way, it's not bad. This is flatter than it's ever been, obviously. That way, if I do my welds, I can get it to hold these pieces in place and be firm, and this turns it into one big, block of steel, basically. Now, if it doesn't pull enough, this is things you can sneak up on. I'm going to go with a certain pattern of weld down the center here. I'm going to start in the center and weld my way out. And the reason for doing that is when you weld out, this thing has room to stretch and give. If you weld the ends and then try to suck the middles in, it can't pull. It can't do as much as it wanted to. So you got to think about how the constriction is going to impact what you're doing. So there again, I also got angle irons going across the end. But so that way I can actually add more weld to pull it even straighter. If I still got a little bit more bow, I can kind of watch the bow with this straight edge and go, I'm going to put a bead of weld here, a little bit here, a little bit here. And then once I get it flat, I'm done. No more welding. Don't need to weld any more than that. This weld isn't about making the table strong. This 3/8 plate is already plenty strong to handle anything I'm going to throw in it. I can set a car on top of this table. It's that strong. This is going to serve a purpose. It's holding my plate straight, but around the perimeter, then I've got a 3-inch or 3 3/8 perimeter band around this whole table. I'm going to drill a half 13-inch pattern all the way around, every 4 inches around this table. Why? Because then I can take blocks and bolt on here, and I can rotate them up like this or leave them flat. And I can just flip them up, lock them, and I've got me a pattern to do squares, and that everything that I know is square. And how am I going to know it's square? Here again, we're spending a lot of time talking about the why and the reasoning, and then we're going to get to the work part. I've got a square here that I am actually lining up on all 4 corners to make sure this thing right here is just a little bit out. I got to bang this one out just a little bit. But I'm checking each corner all the way around to make sure I'm perfectly square. Each square corner is going to be square. I'm not really concerned about the size. If it's square, it's square. It's the size. It's parallel. It's everything else in between. And then when I use my stop blocks that I'm going to put on here, because I'm going to use this guy, to put on here, and it's going to come up against this angle. I've got this angle sticking out, protruding a little further than I have this plate. And what that's going to do is let me always rely on this face to be square, and I don't have to worry about who cut this, who sheared this, how sharp it is, or anything. But that's where I can pull this up. I laid this out. It came out of my printer. My printer prints pretty well. This was like a 12-hour print to print this block out of ABS. But it took a half a roll. But for what it's going to save me in time, because what I was going to do, if you look at this top right now, it's all in primer. And I took a rattle can primer and I just kind of coated it. It was going to be my layout die. And I was going to start measuring over and scribing and center punching and scribing. And I thought, is there a faster way, better way, maybe even a little bit more accurate way? Use a jig. So that's why I created this. So now that you know what I'm doing, we're going to get busy with the doing of the doing. So now what I got left to do is cut. So underneath the table here, it's flat just like this, and the angle iron's coming in, but I want to cut the angle iron that butts up against the ones here, so I have full support down, basically spaced out toward the middle here. But I don't want to put those on yet until I lay out my pattern, because I don't want to accidentally put my pattern on top of the angle iron. You follow what I'm saying? So what we're going to do from this point on, and if I come up with anything else, you guys are going to see in time lapse what I'm doing, what I've talked about doing, and we're going to get the work done. And that way the talking session right now is over. You know why I'm doing it and the reasons I'm doing it, and we'll go on from there. On a more serious topic than obviously my weld table, I've got a good buddy of mine that you guys have seen him on the channel here and there. He's the one with the 1980 Z28 Camaro. Him and his family has run into some unforeseen medical expenses that they're having to deal with, and some hardships they're having to deal with. And he needs to sell his car. And I'm putting it out there right now. You'll see a couple shots here. There'll be links in the description if you want to go back and watch the videos if you haven't seen it. If you're interested, I'm not going to deal with any tire kickers only. You don't get to come look at it and take it for a test drive and get to meet me and all that fun stuff. This is for serious inquiries only, and I will vet you out to make sure you are serious. My email is in the description. If you want to reach out to me, and he's asking $10,500 for that Camaro. I'm just going to say it, and there's no negotiating on that. $10,500. If you're willing to meet that price and you're a serious inquiry, contact me. So I'm trying to help him out. His family is, and this video is going to be out there forever and ever, amen. So if this video, if somebody's watching it a year from now, this doesn't count. Also, there's going to be a GoFundMe for his family that I'll leave in the link. And you guys can go look in the link in the description and go check out. And if you want to help, it would be very helpful if you did help. I don't know how big my audience is, honestly. I know who my regular viewers are, but there again, it's there if you want to help. He wants to sell the car to help take care of some of these expenses he's got coming up. He hates to part with the car, but sometimes life sends you some curveballs. And this is my way of helping him. Hopefully probably get an audience and get the price he's asking for his car. So that's all I'm going to say about that. It's everything you need to know is in the link in the description. We'll go from there. Email me and I'll respond. If you're just a tire kicker, don't waste my time, please. Okay, on to the time lapse and moving forward. Well, so far, folks, we got 5 holes done, and I'm very pleased with how this is working so far. And I want to explain to what I've got here. These are a set of cutters that I bought from off Amazon, Vivor, Vibor, and I've heard of the people getting Vibor stuff, and it's like they seem pretty happy with it. So I got this set that goes from down to 7/16, which is my tap drill size for my 1/2-13, all the way up to this big boy here, which is 1 1/16. And these are kind of, I think they call them slugger cutters, or let's see, what do they call these? I've always called them annular cutter. I call them slugger cutters. The cool part about these, what they do, like for this one here, you have this guy that goes in there like that. You lock it in. There's set screws on here that lock this in on these two flats, right? And then when you go to, this helps you, it's got spring tension up in there. And this is actually held down. Right now it's just floating, but when you put it up in there, there's a spring that puts tension on it. And what happens is when you go down, you can use this point right here to line up the center of your center punch, which is what I've been doing. You get it right on that center punch, and then it just slugs it out. Now, oh, I lost this off my mic. What this will generate is a slug because it's hollow. And this one, the 7/16 is so small, this is the size of slug that's coming out of it. You can still see the center punch in there. And when it cuts through, it just punches out this little slug. It's a small piece. The bigger the cutter, the bigger the slug. So that's kind of the principle of how that works. So this little kit came with 2 different size pilot things that go in here, and the whole set here. And so far, we'll see, because I got to use nothing but the 7/16 on everything I'm doing here. And I'll set this in another spot because this table is going to start getting holier and more trash is going to go through, so I don't want to put it under it. And I'll leave a link. This is a iMesh bean. I don't know if it has it on here, but I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to. So far, so good. It seems the magnet holds really strong. You slide it over. I have to deburr these holes if I'm sliding it over. You want to keep your surface at its own as flat as possible, so it drills as perpendicular as possible. But you've got this little drip feed oiler, right? Now what I've got here is water-soluble coolant. I've got it mixed at about 10%. You can feel the lubricity in it, but it helps keep the bit cool. It's a cutting agent. I'll leave a link in the description to the jug that I bought. I'm mixing it at 10%, and seems to work pretty well. And you can adjust this little drip thing. It's leaking, and it's going to be a little messy, guys. That's all there is to it. But this thing here just sits in here, so you can unplug it, let everything empty out, and it's got a rust inhibitor built into it. It's a semi-synthetic oil, or it's a fully synthetic oil that I'm using right here, and so it won't allow rust to happen. It won't. Let's call it. I want to say it's got an antibacterial in it. I won't leave this in here for long periods of time. This little thing here doesn't seem to seal up as good as it should, and you adjust this out here, and it doesn't come out until you depress down and see it starts to let some come past. This little plunger in there helps hold that sealed shut so it doesn't sit there just drip and drip and drip. Then I turn my magnet on, so now my magnet's on, and it won't go anywhere. And then I'm lined up with my hole. So you have your magnet off. I get it lined up with the hole, just kind of wiggle things around. And it's like, that looks good, turn my magnet on. Then I can turn my power on, and we'll start drilling. And I'm gonna do this one in real time. And I'm just kind of adding pressure, letting pressure off so the chips are breaking. When you get the chips to break, you don't have all these stringers slinging around. And I'm watching for when I lift up every now and then to see that there's still moisture down in there. That means there's enough coolant without it just flooding the surface, enough coolant to get down there to keep the chips from turning blue. You don't want them turning blue with a high-speed steel cutter like this, and to keep it cutting and keep it cool. And if you find it's not giving enough liquid, back this out a little bit more. You back this screw out, it lets more flow through the hose here. You tighten it all the way down, it shuts it off. And this takes very little effort. So when it's done, I turn it off, turn the magnet off, because there's no sense leaving the magnet on any longer than it needs to be on. And then I'm just using my trash can here to kind of catch all my shavings and my chips to keep my work area as clean as possible as I move along here. So what I'm going to do is end up moving all the way down the length of this side here, and then I'll work up this other side. And then I'll start using my 6-hole pattern, and I'll be able to lay out 4 at a time. Right now I'm able to, as you saw in the time lapse, and I'll do it again here real quick to show you. I can slide this back out of my way. I'm not picking it up. I'm not getting chips underneath it. So I'm trying to keep it as flat to the table as possible. And we'll go ahead and we'll leave a little bit of a burr. That one left, that was pretty clean there. And I'm just putting a chamfer on it, 82-degree countersink. That will go in there. That'll be my lead in for when I tap these. So now that I have that one in, I'm taking my block. I can take a couple of my guide pins, drops right down in here. As you can see, for instance, I'll go like right this. I'll slide down. See how that one started? That one started. And make sure I'm still up tight against this face. And I'm keeping this face clamped at some point along the way, the whole way. And I'm just for safe measures, I put a light clamping on this while it's up against everything where it needs to be. And I come down and do my next two. So this is time consuming and it's going to take a little while, but the results should be absolutely wonderful. When that was done, I can move this out of the way. And actually the wise way to do this right now is, see, I can't even come over that bump. I can feel that bump right there when I hit that. So I'm going to drill this one first, deburr it, and keep working my way down. Nice way to do it, if I was able, if I could just bring this around over here and miss that one. Get this one and then slide back so I'm not hitting that bump. Get this one lined up. So I'm lined up there. Everything's nice and nice. Turn the magnet on. I'm ready to see how it already dripped some. I'm ready to start drilling the next one. So this is actually going to go along pretty quick. Compared to drilling through the hand drill through this plate and going through 3/8 plate, that would be very time consuming and a lot of effort and a lot of energy. You can't get it perpendicular. This is going to make things perpendicular and straight. This is just like a drill press. It is a drill press. It just has a magnetic base. And this has a lot of travel. I mean, you got a lot of movement here, which is really awesome. So, and what I'll be able to do is do the same thing, put this thing on the side plate, lay out my holes, and just bop, 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 and work my way down magnetically. What I'll do is I'll flip this table on its ends. So this thing would hold it up sideways, and you could drill, but you got to manhandle all that. I'm going to let Mother Nature and gravity pull down for everything. So I'll be flipping this table 4 sides to drill all the holes around the perimeter of it and let Mother Nature just set it there for me. All I got to do is focus on lining up the hole, turn the magnet on, and I'm ready to go. Alrighty. I'm going to go ahead and shut this off for tonight. I'm actually curious because it's about time to go hit the hay. And as you can see, I didn't fill this up very full up here on this reservoir. And this will probably drill, I don't know, we'll see how many holes. And the coolant will go a long ways for you. And there again, I'm just kind of wiping up and keeping things clean as I go. But what I'll probably do, I might see if I can find a little something to set under here if this thing happens to not be a perfectly good seal. Then I can get it to catch. I can catch this and dump it back in because there's nothing wrong with it. What could I have for that? I need a container. But so far I shut this off, so that should seal it up pretty decent. Maybe we'll just see what kind of mess it makes. I don't want it to make a mess though. Come on. We'll just put a couple of these here and let it sit there overnight. We'll see how much it catches and how much drips. But usually if this is going to be stored away and not used, I need to come up with a case or a good way to store this, because it has a nice, see, it just hit a drip right there. By the morning it might be empty, but I'll be able to dump this back in here and use it. Yeah, it's just got it's not a perfectly sealed thing. It's like this thing here should have been not sitting on that, huh? When I done did it. What was I thinking? Huh. We're about ready to make a big old mess here. Maybe not so much. Let's see if that takes a little more stress off the old Sealinator 2000 here. That doesn't feel like that was seated. All right. I got a couple drips, but we'll see how it looks in the morning or tomorrow evening when I get back out here. But so far, I'm pretty happy with how this thing works. And this is reversible, so when you got the magnet on, you turn it on. It's variable speed. And there again, this isn't about high-speed RPM. This is about keeping and preserving your tools so they don't get smoked. And then it's also reversible. So this did come with a drill chuck that fastens up here in the same way. The cool thing about the drill chuck is I can actually put a tap in here and clamp onto it, and I could tap, power tap and reverse tap out if I wanted to. That's going to be a much slower process than the way I'm going to tap it. I'll share with you guys how I'm going to tap it when I get to that point. But probably what you'll see in the next segment is going to be me just moving my way around and perforating this thing, putting it full of holes. Now this isn't weakening it. This is, when you drill through it, you start getting a real sensation of how thick it is and how solid this thing is going to be. You definitely don't want to tip it over on your toe bones. But it's, I think it's going to work out really well. And the worst part about this job is that I've thought about it so much, and I worked it over my head. And some of these projects I wait weeks before I get started on, and I collect stuff like the drill, and I collect the, clamps and different things like this over several weeks or even months in some cases. And I'm working out my process in my head. And by the time I get to a job like this, I've already done it 200 times in my head. And my biggest fear is failure. I don't like to fail. I really hate rework. I like to do it once. I like to do it nice, and I like to do it right. And if I have to rework, I want it to be kind of a complete surprise. And then I have to figure out how my rework going to go, how am I most effectively going to do it, and how most efficiently I can do it. Because I hate wasting my time. And but so far, this is going to be awesome. That's why it was worth waiting the 14 hours to get this, because that makes the layout is automatic. It's automatic. I don't have to worry about laying and scribing and punching, and then, I can do this as I go. I'm pretty happy about that. That thing's just going to continue to drip, but that's fine. I've got a whole bottle of it mixed up over there. And from the looks of it, that whole bottle and what I've got here will probably drill this entire table. So it isn't like you're going to consume a lot. And that stuff's not cheap either. That stuff's expensive. There again, in the links below, there's to be links to the Amazon link, or links to the Amazons where you can buy this stuff, exactly what I'm using. And there again, it doesn't cost you anything if you use my link and then put that in go to my link and then put that in your shopping cart and then make the purchase. Now, if you already have it in your shopping cart and then use my link, it doesn't work. You got to go to the link in the description, put it in your shopping cart, and like you always do when you buy Amazon stuff, and then check out. And then I'll get, it's about a 2 to 3% commission I get. Your price is no different than it would have been otherwise. But that type of thing helps the channel out. I'll be honest with you folks, I might make $20 to $30 a month off Amazon commissions. It's not a great deal, but every 20 to 30 bucks helps move some of these projects along and keeps me going and keeps me motivated to continue to video and do stuff like this for you guys. Alrighty, well, enough of that. So there again, there's the whys and the hows, and I think it's turning out really good so far. I'm really, really thrilled with it. There again, I'm keeping the clamps in place because I've already got this piece squared where I want it, and I'm making everything else square to it. So the clamps are important to keep 4 or 5 clamps on here so things don't shift on me. I got to be really careful when I tip this thing over because I could weld upside down, but I don't have to, so I'm not going to. I'm going to weld where it's most comfortable for me, and I'm not going to be trying to, work underneath a shower of sparks. Alrighty, we're going to keep moving on. Actually, I'm going to go call it a night. We'll see you tomorrow evening, and hopefully, if everything goes well, I can spend the whole evening listening to music and have you guys watch me zip through this. And several hours will go by in several seconds for you guys, and we'll have a whole bunch of holes in this thing. And I'll be able to take you see now how if I had a threaded hole here, when I put a plate underneath here, I could put a hold down clamp underneath, tighten it down to hold my angle line here because I can't get a C-clamp in there that far. So that's the whole idea behind that. And then once it's clamped in place, I start the old welding process, and we're that much closer to the finish line and getting on to the project that actually makes me some money. All right. We'll see you tomorrow night, folks. Okay, now let's see where we're at. This is the next night. I stopped last night after I got this first row of holes done. So we've done 1, 2, 3, 4. We've done 28 holes in the table so far. And I've already taken, and you might have saw it in the time lapse, I've already taken this and set it up so I've lined up 3 holes at a time. Like that, and then I transferred punched 6 holes. So now I'm ready to do a whole second row. This fixture makes a heck of a difference. And there again, I'm not looking for perfect center to center 4-inch by 4-inch. I just want a nice grid that's pretty close. Not just close, but close enough. It'll do the job, is what I'm saying, for all intents and purposes. Now, this is performing very, very well. The reservoir drips a little bit. Can I do some work on that? Probably. Not a big deal. Not a deal breaker. And the slugger cutter from Vevor, I bought this whole set. And you kind of keep in mind, I'm not a production machine shop. I'm not trying to drill holes for a living. But occasionally when you want to put a hole, I bought this set here. And it goes down from 7/16, which I am going to wear that one out, I'll guarantee it, all the way up to 1 1/16. It came with a hex wrench that does not fit this. I've got the hex wrench that fits this, but with 2 separate alignment pins. But let's talk about cost and the fact that I may never financially recover from this, so to speak. Okay, the reason I decided to go this route on this table and make it straight and flat enough to do all the work that I want to do is because I needed a bigger table. I've got a project laying over here that's going to require 4 foot of this 5-foot table, only about 18 inches of the depth, but I need this width, and I had nothing in here that was going to add up to that, so it was time to take this project on and get it done. This is going to be 3 foot by 5 foot, and I'm going to put all these holes in it, and I'm putting all this bracing to make it flat. That did not come free. Originally, before I decided to take and do this, I was going to go to Harbor Freight and buy two welding tables for $189 a piece. I went to the store, and as you guys know, I'm not bashing Harbor Freight. I've got more Harbor Freight tools in this shop than most shops would ever have that have 5 people working in it, most likely. Between Bauer and Hercules tools. That's being said, I've got a container over there full of just battery chargers. 17-quart container full of battery chargers. That tells you what's going on here. But anyway, I digress. The welding tables, I went in there and looked at the one they had set up, and I'm like, sorry about that. And I said, looking at it, and I looked at the thickness of the table and the hole, because I was thinking, I want something with a hole pattern, I want something flat, and I could put 2 of them together and, blah, 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 blah. No, I couldn't bring myself to spend 2 times $189. You guys do the math. So just under $400. With tax, it'd have been really close to $400, right? So I said, man, is there a better way? I'm always looking at the angles of things, right? So I said, okay, what if? And keep in mind, the material on that table those tables are thin. They're great, small for one size table. If you watch Matt's Off-Road Recovery, you'll see Rudy, he had built a table. They bought 6 of them. Not sure that was money well spent because they didn't use any of the base for it. They just used the tops, and then they built their own tubing. And it's still not a very thick table. So, but it serves their purpose. They're doing what they're doing. Me, I wanted something I could bash on and not worry about doing any damage. Not that I'm rough on my stuff, but I do use my stuff. And if I want to throw an engine block on here, I can. Not saying they couldn't. They've got 4-inch square tubing underneath theirs. Okay, enough of that. This is where my brain went. I'm like, I can possibly make mine straight. I can put holes in it. And I can make a table that's already on wheels. I got heavy duty casters. These casters are like rated at, I think, 700 pounds each, maybe more. They're the heavy duty ball bearing neoprene swivel casters. I mean, I spent some money on these casters a couple years ago. I spent this tabletop I bought a couple years ago. So all that's been soaking and sitting in this configuration. I got the base for free because it came off of something else. And you know me, I reuse and repurpose. So I thought to myself, man, Michael, why don't you've always wanted a mag drill. And if you bought a mag drill and some cutters for under $400, you could make a holy table just like Harbor Freight, only it'll be 3/8 of an inch thick. Well, so I did that. So this particular brand, and I'll put the links in the description down below. I've mentioned this before. Links down below, the Amazon links to buy everything I bought to do this drilling of the holes, including the mag drills, slugger cutters, and some more slugger cutters. So this drill cost me $285.64. And it's variable speed, magnetic drill, variable speed, got a dial here, forward, reverse, on, off, and it's got a lot of travel. So a lot of these don't have a lot of travel when you buy them, but this one goes way up. You can put a drill chuck here and still get you a decent drill bit in there if you wanted to use a drill bit. You can. I haven't tried tapping with this. I don't think I will. I got a better method for tapping. So I bought that. $285.64. That kit you saw, because I'd like to have an assortment instead of just one size for, let's see, the long haul, $120.92 for that Vivor kit. Now, like I said, I just counted these holes. I've done quite a bit of them. Did I say 28? Yeah, I think I said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, 28 holes. And it's still drilling, but I can feel the resistance getting a little bit more, but it's still cutting and making a nice chip. So, and it could have been this part of the plate's maybe a little stiffer than this end of the plate. So anyway, I ordered 3 more bits. One of them is carbide tipped. So I'm curious about how well that's going to work. Now carbide tipped you got to be careful of because carbide will chip easy. But But if it doesn't chip, and this is very rigid situation here, if it doesn't chip, it will outlast probably 5 to 1 or better on a high-speed steel one. But I did order 2 other brand high-speed steel 7/16 ones. So as many holes as I'm putting on here, I'll get an idea to tell you which flavor works the best. So the other cutters I've got coming are a total of $72.65, which I'm also, keep in mind, everywhere you see a hole along here, there's going to be the same hole along the perimeter. So I got a lot of holes to, this 14, there's 28 more there, plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 20 more. There's 58 holes. Nope. 48 holes that are going to be around just the perimeter of this when I'm all said and done. All tapped holes, half 13 tapped holes. So, but the angle iron, this is where I go a little past my $400 budget, right? I've gone past it a little bit already. Angle iron was $235.89 for 4 pieces of it about 5 feet long and 2 pieces of it that are just over 3 feet long. So I've got these miter cut, so they'll fit miter cut underneath here with the face facing out. But the cool part is when I'm all done here, I've still got a tool. I spend that $400 on just the Harbor Freight welding tables and put them together, and the legs are very spindly. They're not very heavy duty. I'm not going to set my tractor bucket on one of those or even 2 of those and roll it around. No. So there again, value versus price. I'm still going to have this one when it's all said and done, and I'm going to have a magnificent table that my great grandkids would still be able to use, because this is going to last for absolutely ever. There's nothing that would take this out. Even if it was picked up by a tornado and thrown 5 miles, this will stay. This is a block of steel when I'm done, basically. It's going to be fine. So, or somebody else, it will be around for a long time. It will definitely outlast me. So, that was my reasoning behind it. So I thought I'd explain myself, and it's why you're going through all this effort, because I've always wanted another really awesome welding table. I know I'm not going to buy, drop the coin, or do I do enough of the jobs that would support it, like a big old Fireball brand, beautiful. Those are beautiful tables. Don't take anything away from them. Fireball style welding table, because you'll spend $3, $4, $5 grand for something like that. And yes, it will still last multiple lifetimes. I'm not going to do enough work on this to justify it. This job I'm going to be doing will pay for everything I've done here, plus put some folding money in my pocket. So that's why I'm investing in myself and in the future. And, myself, I've been involved with machining, production machining, tool making, and just machine shop, repair for my entire career. My first job I got when I was 19 was in a machine shop. I've been a foreman in a machine shop. I've been supervisors in several machine shops. I've been a manager in over a machine shop for about a decade, just about 9 years. And then I've also been a manager over a machine shop where I'm currently working. And machining has been around. I've been around machining and about machining my entire working career. So when it comes to doing things and figuring out what I want to do, where I want to spend the money, where the money's most effectively spent, I didn't need to buy one of these because I'm going to use it every day on a job in a commercial environment. I just needed one good enough to get through this job and maybe, another 10 years, which this may do. This actually even came with spare brushes. It came with spare brushes. So you can't be mad at that, because when you have an AC motor with variable speed, the variable speed when you're anything other than wide open is very hard on brushes. It will eat brushes. How did I know this? Because I've had a place where I worked, we had actually AC driven 1/2-inch Milwaukee drills running heavy-duty lathes, making them into welding fixtures more or less. And on the variable speed side, you would always, you'd burn through brushes after, a decent amount of time. I don't know what you call decent, but you replace the brushes, the drills would go. That's those Milwaukee drills got abused, and they just went and went and went. So I know the difference between high quality, and I know the difference between just a good enough quality to do what I want to do. All right. I just wanted to explain to you guys why I did this, why I'm doing this, and why do you see the primer? I don't think I explained that. This is all in primer red right now because, yeah, I did explain it. I digress. Okay. Now, so far, this bottle has about that much left in it. The bottle drips about that much overnight, which is fine. We're going to go after some more holes tonight. So I'm going to dump this that just drizzled out. It's nothing wrong with it. And we'll set these aside. And I'm going to go ahead and add a little more in here. So far, so good. There again, I mixed this at about a 10-to-1 ratio. You can feel it. When you put it on your fingers, you can feel the oily and slipperiness of it, which is pretty good. I would probably, if I'm going to tap with it, use it for a tapping fluid, so to speak, because this is a cutting fluid, a water-soluble cutting fluid. If I was going to tap with it, I'd probably go to a 20 to 30% to 1 ratio, just to give that tap some extra lubricity. For the drill, the chips are coming off. I'll show you the chips. That's all the chips right there that was from last night. They're pretty much all clumped together. And that was from 28 holes. And they all they're nice curls. They're doing a good job. There's no blue. If they're getting brown or blue, brown is hitting about 400 degrees on your chips. Blue is hitting 500 degrees. And by the time you take a chip that hot, that means your tool is getting very hot. And you'll start on a high-speed steel tool. It won't be long before it's absolutely done. Now, what's been working good for me, and this is actually dry tonight, it's just kind of oily soaked, is after I drill a couple holes, I'll just sweep these into the thing because I'm trying to keep the tabletop clean, not because of the table surface, because I don't want to get this magnet face all jacked up with a whole bunch of chips and scars and dragging it across chips. So I'm being very careful about that. I'm turning it off. I'm wiping around the edge. I'm sliding it. Yes, probably taking way better care of it than it deserves, or than it would happen in an industrial environment. But I want it to last. I want it to be nice. It came in a box, a pretty heavy-duty box, but not a good enough box to store it in. So I probably will create me a nice little box with some wheels, because this thing's heavy. It's got some weight to it. And I want to be able to put it and its accessories, the bits, and any extra bits in this box. So I'll probably actually eventually build me a nice little box that maybe opens up, has cutter holders in it, stuff like that. That's for a future video. There's no shortage of content around here, folks. I've always got something to do. So without further ado, I left my earbuds at home because this thing is not quiet, as you heard earlier. So I don't want to be exposed to it for hours on end. This took about an hour, a little over an hour last night to do this set of holes. I've got many more hours, and I don't want to listen to this thing howl in my ears. But I left my earbuds at work, and but I do have some more noise canceling headphones I'll put on that are Bluetooth, so I can listen to music while I'm doing, the rest of this to keep me entertained while I entertain you guys. All right. Well, let's see how much more we can march through tonight. It's 7:05. I've come home. I've petted the dogs. I've let them outside. I throw a frisbee. And now, I'd like to get another hour and a half to 2 hours out here tonight to move this project. There again, an hour a day. Just move your project forward. Move your project forward. And hopefully by this weekend, if I get all these holes on top drilled, which would be awesome, because then I can clamp my pieces under here, and I'm going to flip this thing over on its side to a certain degree, so I don't have to weld upside down like I described earlier. I want to start stitching this thing together, but I don't want it completely upside down. I want it at a, you know, where I can weld it. And then also I can take my long straight edge and kind of monitor to make sure I'm not, you know, creating one of these. Now the backbone, a 3-inch backbone by 5/16 angle iron, is going to really prevent it from doing this when I weld on it. It's going to do some things. Alrighty. We'll be back in a little bit. You guys enjoy the music. Watch me do hours worth of work in seconds. And I'm going to be out here just enjoying myself because I'm out in my shop. And we're living the good life, folks. Alrighty, we've got half of the holes done in the top. I basically have 2 more rows. I've got this one stamped out already. I used my jig to stamp out the next row of 28. So far it's done 56 holes. I'm actually now impressed with the Vevor cutter. I wouldn't have guessed it would have done 56 holes. It's still going strong. I think I have a pretty good confidence that it's going to do the rest of this tabletop, and then we'll see how many around the perimeter it gets once I get these angles welded in place. Now I wanted to show you kind of my plan. I tapped a couple of holes just so I could show you. I'll get you down here real close. So this is your typical machinist style hold down type clamps. Has a serrated piece. It can sit up here. You got different levels you could clamp it at. So if I got this, I've tapped this hole. This is the studs. You get a whole assortment of studs of different lengths with one of these sets. And I've had these set, there's ones that are painted green. I've had these are Inco brand, back when the stuff used to be good from Inco. And compared to what you get today, I think. I haven't bought any for a long time, but I heard the Tico brand is probably the ones you want still want. But you screw that in, you screw that on, you always have this up a little bit, so it's a toe clamp, they call it. Then I can take a wrench and tighten this down. And then, as you can see, just hand tightening that locks that down. It's not locked in so you couldn't bump it. But say I wanted to do some tubing, I wanted to build a weld fixture or have something clamped to the table that you know, a certain shape, an octagon or whatever, and I wanted to repeat it, I could clamp a series of this stuff around so that against the first one, and then that'd be my pattern for the rest of them, and I could just lay the parts in here, clamp, you know, have them in place, and then it would just repeat, and you get some repeatable stuff. So that's the method to the madness. Why I'm doing this the way it is. Now some of you are going to say, well, the weld splatter is going to get in them threads and ruin them. I don't care. I can run a tap back through it again just to open it up. Even if it was splatter at the top, I could bring the tap up through the bottom and knock that splatter loose. Here's the difference between the old Inco ones. Those were like a forged hold down versus this is more of a machined looking hold down, manufactured in a different process, obviously. Well, the cool part about this process so far is it's working very, very well. It's starting to look like more of an on-purpose piece of equipment I'm creating here, and I'm pretty excited about that. Yes, there's a lot of holes to tap yet, but that's no problem. I actually looked up at the clock when I started drilling the first hole tonight, and it was right at 8 o'clock. It's currently 9:05, and obviously it's taken me less than an hour because I had to put a new battery in the camera and, you know, clean things off and everything to already tap those holes. So in less than an hour, 28 holes. So by the time you adjust and drill, you know, you're looking at 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes a hole to put these in. And boy, I tell you, having that mag drill and basically like a drill press, I can put leverage on there and push, and that magnet just holds strong. So I'm not going to tell you all the specs on the mag drill. It's just another tool in my arsenal now, but you can go to the links and look at it yourself and look at the mag force pull and all that kind of fun stuff. Now it does have the ability to hang upside down on stuff and drill. Now, I say that, but it also came with a strap, like a cinch strap, almost like a ratchet strap. It is like a ratchet strap material, but it doesn't have a ratchet strap on it. And it looks to me like if you were going to hang it on a beam or something upside down or offset, that you might want to throw that strap on it and loop it around through the handle maybe up here and around it while you're drilling in case the magnet was to let go. Or, God forbid, somebody tripped on your cord and unplugged it. So as soon as you unplugged it, the magnet releases and gravity takes over there at a very alarming rate. So anyway, just think about those things when you're out of position. Don't trust that the electricity is always going to be there. It could be as simple as what you plugged into doesn't have the right size breaker or the capacity to handle the amperage draw, and the breaker trips. Because you're probably thinking, oh, what's the odds of me tripping over my own cord while I'm using it? Well, what's the odds of the power going out because somebody hit an electrical pole down the road? What are the odds of the breaker tripping and you lose your power? There's all kinds of silly things that could cause you to lose power, and an electromagnet will let go, and next thing you know, it's sitting in your lap or on your foot or on your head. So be careful from that perspective. Okie dokie. Well, we're going to call it for tonight. Tomorrow night, I'll get back out here right away again because I've got to actually spend the next 30 minutes getting my bike rack on my car, get me a bike, make sure I've got the air in the tires, and load it up in the morning because we're going for a 6 a.m. bike ride in 28-degree weather, and I think I've absolutely lost my mind. But I'm going to give it a whirl. It's a group ride, just a short 10-mile ride with some coworkers, so we're going to do it. All right. We'll see you tomorrow night if I don't freeze to death. Okay, everybody. Welcome back to the next morning. This has been, you're probably looking at this about a day and a half to 2 days later from when the last clip ended. And I did, all the holes are drilled. I got a few of them tapped, but I got a lot of them drilled. I mean, all of them are drilled. And you ain't going to believe this. There was a moment that I thought that this cutter was going to do all 112 holes on the top and possibly all the perimeter. And I'm thinking, man, I wasted my money buying those other 3 bits. But this is no joke. You guys know I don't fib to you. The last hole on the top, I was just starting to drill. I got in about, not even a 16th, and it went, psh, and it shattered. shattered into pieces. The pilot piece in the middle was fine, but yeah, it finally gave up. But still, I'm not unimpressed with the Weaver. The Weaver actually did 111 holes. But now this gets to go in my scrap tub. Along with about 4 of my C-clamps. Now this C-clamp, I had to cut it to get it off. As you can see, this doesn't come out quite at the same angle it used to. It wasn't going to meet up here anymore. What happened? Well, I got my lifting straps out, and I used my overhead hoist here, and I was lifting to roll this thing over, and I grabbed it on the side on the plate where I didn't have the angle iron on yet, and I picked it, and it went whoom. It hit the floor, but gently, sort of, kind of. And the 4 C-clamps, I think I had 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 C-clamps that were on that side. When it hit the floor, got bent. And it wasn't on purpose. I was clear. I was staying clear because I knew something could happen. And it did happen. I'm glad I wasn't there to receive it. So, what have I done now? Since then, I cut the base here off of it. It's sitting over here now. I decided that the base needed to come off for me to do an effective job of working on the bottom. And I probably had to anyway because the way the spacing was on here did not lay out right here for me. It missed all the holes, obviously, but when I went to put the angle iron on the back, it wasn't going to work. Now I had 2 choices. I could put the angle iron evenly spaced, you know, about yay to about yay. There's like 2 holes exposed, 3 holes exposed here. And that was going to be the plan, was 2 and 2. And then I started measuring, and then it wasn't going to work. And then I was going to have to cut and notch. And it was going to make life a little more difficult, but enough that I didn't want to deal with it. So let me get you down here closer and walk you through some of what I got going on here. So as you can see here, move my straight edge over. I did go ahead and tap this hole so I could put a hold down bolt in it. And you can see how I've done it here. I've got this supported here, and I've got it clamped here. It's toe clamped here. And remember, this thing had when you looked at it from this direction, it was sway back like this. So by me putting this piece of angle iron in here and clamping it on each end, the strength of the beam, the angle iron here is pulling it straight. So with it being what I did here, if you go on down here and look, this bottom is actually in really good shape here by just doing the inside here. You know, that's, in my book, that is flat enough to do the job. Now what I haven't done is check the bottom of the plate here. I haven't gone underneath, which I'm going to get underneath here, lay down and kind of hold that up there and see how that looks. But what that means overall is going to be a lot less welding. Because there again, once I put me a couple of beads here, maybe one here, and a couple over here, it's going to hold this in place. Remember, the pressure is coming up against here. So a couple of beads here to kind of lock this in. And then I'm going to come down here and focus my energy down here on the ends. It's going to act like my new clamps. And I'll do the same thing with the middle. I might put a bead here, maybe a couple of smaller beads here to hold it. There again, like I said, the strength isn't coming from these angle irons. The straightness is coming from the angle irons. But I want to put enough weld on it so that if I clamp onto these and do something with these, it can actually still perform a job. But I don't want to weld too much on this side because it's going to be hard pressed for this to pull down and put the bend the other way just because of the sheer strength of this thickness of the angle iron here and, you know, this tall edge. So far so good. The other thing I've been doing, and you might see the clamps aren't at the end where I would like to have them right now, But I also had them there temporarily so I could come in here, lay my square in here, and see how square my corners are. And I've done this all the way around. I'm able to take my square here and check everything and to make sure it's good and square. That is the method behind the madness that is what you see going on right here. So everything still looks pretty good. I like it. So I'm ready to start gluing it together, as it were. So what you're going to see me now, I got to put my new bottle of gas on my welder, and then I'm going to come in here and I think I'm going to lay a bead right here in the middle. Here, and then I'll do maybe on the back here and back over here. That's going to lock this down. And then I'm going to come down on the end here, and I'm going to lay a nice bead right here on the end. Here and here. And obviously you can see that this is clamped up tight right here. So I'll probably go ahead and tie this together and tie this one together on both ends. And then I'll do some more checking with the straight edge. If I like everything, as you can see, these miters are not perfect. I didn't expect them to be. I wasn't going for perfect, but I can lay a bead in here and just kind of fill that in and put me a corner bead in here to lock that down. Then I'll fill this in here, and I'll fill this in out here, and I'll grind it so it's flush and smooth. Pretty good, I think. Now, so some of you are probably thinking, Michael, there's no way I would have done it that way. That's perfectly fine. It's not your weld table, it's mine. And I'm the only one that needs to be happy with it. I'm not trying to be a snot, not trying to be cruel or mean. It's just some people's going to have their opinion, and that is fine. Doesn't mean I have to agree with it. Whoa. That was put on kind of tight. There we go. Now, what kind of gas do I use on my welder? This is called Moon Gone. And it's 2% oxygen, 8% carbon dioxide, 90% argon. Years ago, one guy asked me, have you ever tried this? And I'm like, no. I said, what does it do? He says it'll actually drastically reduce the amount of weld splatter. So I tried it 15 years ago or longer, and I've been using it ever since. Carbon dioxide works fine. Straight carbon dioxide works fine. Used to use that for years. I like this better. This looks like it's got a brand new valve on it. Now, what I always do when I get one of these is I crack it open. Just like that, and that's the only purpose for that is to make sure there's no, this has a little screen here, but make sure there's no debris or dust from traveling or being hauled is in there. It blows that out. And then I'll install my gauges. Some of you might say, Michael, install your gauges. That's only one gauge. Well, there's a gauge. There's a gauge. That deserves an S on the end of gauge, so it's gauges. Obviously, one's your pressure gauge. Tells you how much pressure you have in your bottle. And when you open these up, never put your face in line with the gauge. Crack them open gently, because if it was to blow, they're going that way and that way. So we're back up to our almost 2,200 pounds of pressure. And secondary gauge, what do I normally run that at? I'll tell you. About 20. I could probably go a little lighter than that. Matter of fact, we'll try it. We'll go at 15. If I'm outside, I'll crank it up a little bit because the wind outside might blow your shielding away. We're indoors. Very exciting. Get to finally weld on it some. I'm going to use my Arc Captain welding helmet. This has been I'll leave a link in the description below to one of these off Amazon. My buddy, K6 Outdoors. If you guys don't follow him, it's K6 Outdoors. His name's Kyle. And he had a sponsored video where he was able to give away a couple of items. And I left a comment and he did a random drawing. And I said, he goes, why don't I just give you one? I'm like, no, I want to win it. I want to win it. And so he had his drawing, and sure enough, I got selected, and I'm pretty happy about that because this thing is flipping awesome. Big view pane, and it's got a comfortable headband. I'll move some things back out of the way that we don't want weld splatter to get on. I got my wrenches. Move those over here in the Mr. Chair over there. Hammer. And this, everything else, you know, it's going to be what it's going to be. I do like these C-clamps or these welding clamps that I bought. These are awesome. They're strong. And none of them got killed during the flipping of this table. Ow. I dropped that and it landed right on my big toe. How awesome is that? Let's put a little bit here. Perfect. Now I'm going to keep this symmetrical, as it were. Now I'm putting about a 1-inch bead here. I don't really need much more than that. By the time I put, trying to keep the heat to a minimum since I am pretty straight now. And I just need enough to glue this to this and never let it pop loose is the goal. All right, I'm gonna put a couple more on the back side, stagger it. That's beautiful. I'm gonna go underneath for a second, check the undercarriage. I'm glad I vacuumed the floor. Now you guys are gonna think I'm crazy, but that is all the weld I'm putting in the middle here because it doesn't need any more. Now the reason I'm not getting crazy with the weld, because it's already pretty flat. If it wasn't flat, I'd actually add more beads in here. But right now, it's just a matter of these welds replacing these C-clamps. The plate is flat at this moment in time. Now I want to take this clamp, we're going to come down here and do the same thing. I'm going to tie this corner in. Actually, I need a bigger clamp down here. This one's just a little shy on getting the bite on it. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put a bead right here, then I can remove this clamp. Now the other good thing I got going on here, now you guys might think that's not enough weld to hold it. There again, I'm holding it straight. I can't say that enough. I got a bead here. I don't need any in the middle. The tension is already this way. This is going to be, you know, the memory of this material is going to be there until something relieves that stress, and nothing will. Other than if you were to heat and cool, I'm talking dull red color back to cool, dull red, it would relax and become very normalized for sure. But, you know, there's a lot of strength in this angle iron by itself, and by me mitering it and welding these corners along here, this seam here and up, this frame itself, you got to remember how ridiculously strong it's going to be. Now it's also connected to a piece of 3/8 plate. There's a lot of strength there. There's no need to over-engineer this. First off, I'm going to see if I got the balance point of this. We're close. All right, we're going to go straight to the floor, baby. No stopping. This little hoist and this little unistrut and this trolley system has more than impressed me. I stand back because I'm waiting for it just to rip down off of the ceiling, but I've got it lagged every, I put lags in there into every ceiling joist. When I picked it up, you can see the ceiling bow a little bit, but it's also supported right next to 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. I'm guessing those are 2x8s. Okay. Whoa, let's go this way. Starting to see the reveal of the final project here. Woo, baby. It's got some heft to it. That is so, you know, if I was in school today, I would absolutely would have earned myself a participation trophy. Yep. That's a comment on our current school system for sure. Now, if there's any school teachers watching, I'm sorry. My opinion, and that's how I feel. Too many participation. Don't want anybody's feelings to get hurt because they didn't win. Good Lord. Now, we're just knocking the ugly off. We didn't even take the scale off of the angle iron. We just knocked a little bit of surface rust that was there off. Now, obviously, that went through a little quicker than it did this plate because this is 5/16, this is 3/8. Still enough meat to hold a bolt, but not so much that I would really crank on it, you know. Set that right there. And I say that because I have the opportunity, if I got to do something I got to do a lot of holding on, I can put a nut on it, behind it. And that applies to everything on here. Except for one hole where this leg covered up, but you know that'll be the exact one I need to. Okay, what have I got here? This might blow your mind. You guys been waiting to see me tap? Probably, maybe not. Probably don't care. I ordered me 2 bottles of this Tap Magic EP Extra Cutting Fluid lubricant. Then it gets Spanish. Then it gets improved surface finish, machinability, and tool life. Highly effective on most metals: steel, stainless, Inconel, nickel, any ferrous metals. All cutting operations: broaching, tapping, reaming, drilling, milling, threading, boring. You know, everything. Let's cut this little dealer whooper off here. This is pretty liquidy, so we'll put a little bit on the tap here. It's not super, you know, they got that heavy black tapping fluid. That's good stuff too. Let's see how this works. Got right after it. Now what I didn't do, and I should have done, oh, it's got that tapping fluid smell, baby. What I should have done, should have, would have, could have, I didn't chamfer it first. I'll throw a little chamfer on it now, though. There we go. D-Bird. I like my signs up on my wall over here. You can't see them. You probably can see me from over here, though. This thing's got such a wide angle on it. But over there it says, people need to understand the difference between want and need. I want a nice body, but I need biscuits and gravy. Oh, biscuits and gravy. Now this morning I made myself grits and eggs for breakfast because that's the breakfast of champions too. And it's got horsepower to get me to the afternoon. All right, now that I got that one done, this is a lot harder to do than the plate, because plate I had a whole working surface I could slide this around on. Now I'm gonna have this hanging off a little bit. Feels like it's pretty stable. We're gonna see how it does. Get lined up on my punch mark there. There we go. Oh yeah, you can pick up the whole weld table with this. On, baby. This time we'll deburr it. You might look like a big chamfer there, but by the time you run the tap in there, it's about the size of the outside diameter of the thread we're doing. And there again, this impacting, I learned this from Fab Rats. And I'll give Paul credit for that because I've been doing it ever since I saw him do it, and I've had really good luck. Alrighty, folks. Well, the battery, the GoPro got hot and shut off. And I thought it ran out of battery, actually, and this is around 10:30 this morning. It is now 5:50 in the evening, and it's done. Everything's done except for tapping all the holes. It's all drilled. I tapped a handful of holes. It is crazy how long that took. But we've got 112 holes on the top. And we got another 28 plus 10, 38 around the sides. And that was a lot of hole drilling. And there again, like I showed you, the one snapped. I got through the rest of them with this second bit. Hey, Miss Faye. Miss Faye's coming out here to visit me. We got to video your puppies tonight. Yes, we do. So, now, this thing worked amazingly well. I couldn't be happier with how it turned out. Now I've got to empty out the container because I'm not going to store it with that in there. That'll Who knows if that'll go rancid, how long it can be stored that way. I just assume drain it. But I didn't want to bore you with all the hole drilling. I had to flip this thing on the side, back on this side, back on that side, back on this side. And I got the holes all the way around the perimeter that I wanted. I just got to tap. All the ones on either side are tapped. And I think, did I do the ends? No, I just finished this up a minute ago. Yeah, I still got to tap the ends, but that's okay. Tapping goes relatively quick. It'll be time consuming, but it goes relatively quick because I use my impact to do it, and it works. So anyway, I took off at 10 to go help my buddy with his Camaro, having some speedo cable issue, and he's got the interior out of the car and stuff. So I went over there for a couple hours, came back, got back to working on this again, and then ate some mid-afternoon or early afternoon lunch, supper, and then came out and just finished this up like 20 minutes ago. And then I cleared out some stuff out of the shop here, and now I got to proceed to clean my shop because it's an absolute pit right now. And but flatness, look at this. Look at that right there. I couldn't have asked for that to come out any better. I'm going to get you down low. Can we see anything out there? It's a sliver. It is a sliver of light. Now, how much coolant did I go through on this? This was filled up to about here when I started. And let's just, for funds. Now this thing's supposed to have little locks that go around here and lock. They all broke. I mean, the screw-on lid still works fine. They all broke first time I used it. Some good old quality Chinesium plastic. The rest of the machine worked flawlessly. So if you're ever curious how much coolant you're going to end up using, that's it. Let's see here. Can I get that back down in there? Like that. Let's see if this will finish drip drying down in there like that. It looks like I got it pretty dry. But yeah, we're down to about here. So there again, you mix this stuff up 10 to 1. The tool lasted way longer than I thought it would. Honestly, with the way this went, I could most likely get another table's worth of drilling out of at least 90% of another table's worth of drilling. This one's cutting great still. There again, I'll leave a link to, I didn't use the carbide. I'll leave a link to in the description of the two I used, and I'll mark I used, and I'll pull a link to two others that I didn't use that also look, let's just say, equally as satisfactory. So, pretty tickled about everything that went on. Hey, look at there. It's coming out. The hose is being drained. I might blow a little air in there even, flush it on out, but it looks like it's a little bit left. It's coming out. But anyway, now we can start fabricating some really cool stuff on here. There's no way that scale there would have stood up on this table before I did what I did, because it would have been supported on each corner and it would have just tipped. All right, but my gosh, can't argue with the results, can you now? So here we are. A brand new weld table, brand old, refurbished, built up, brought up to speed weld table, whatever you want to call it. I don't like to put labels on things. Yeah, I do. I label things all the time. That's how I stay organized, somewhat. Okay. Well, folks, I don't know what else to tell you about this, but thanks for watching. Appreciate you coming along for the ride. I know this was a long one, but now I can do some fabrication that I need to get done for my next job to get paid for some stuff. And I'm excited about being able to do a good quality job because I got a working surface that is awesome now. And believe you me, this will be parked up at the front of the shop here before long when I start tearing apart my 5.4 Triton V8 out of my pickup truck. And when I say tear apart, we're doing a timing chain, but it's a lot of getting in after it for a timing chain. All right, thanks for watching. This is Michael saying, if it ain't broke, fix it till it is. We'll see you on the next video. This has been a fun one. I've enjoyed doing this. I like to create stuff that I get to drive the mileage out of, so to speak, you know. All right. Be good to one another. And what's that they say? You shake it more than twice, you're playing with it. All right. Stick that back in there. And we'll stick this aside in a safe place. I'll put my spray bottle thing back on here because this is nice for just having some spray cooling around. All right, I'm out.